Have you ever stopped to reflect on what God has reserved for your life? The truth is, many times, along our path, we are confronted with challenges and obstacles. However, in the midst of adversity, there's a promise of prosperity and divine protection. God is watching over each one of us, not just in moments of peace, but especially in times of struggle. He is ready to bless and protect us, even when circumstances seem too difficult. When God promises protection, He truly delivers. In a world full of envy, gossip, and even traps set against us, the truth is that God's strength guides us and keeps us firm. Often, what bothers the enemy the most is seeing God's blessings manifest in our lives, and that is exactly what can attract the envy of people around us. It is at this point that we must remember we are chosen by God. He will not abandon us, no matter what the enemy tries to do to bring us down. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows what is best for us. When it seems like the paths are closed, He opens doors that no one else can. You may not understand why certain struggles arise, but it is in the difficulty that God shapes our strength, teaches us to persevere, and enables us to shine, even in the shadows of adversity. Struggles are not signs of defeat, but an opportunity to be shaped into the image of Christ, learning from Him to be strong, patient, and faithful. Therefore, even if the enemy tries to raise people against us, we can trust that God's protection is over our lives. God, who is greater than any difficulty, is the one who guarantees our victory. He is our strength and our refuge, and He will illuminate our steps. Lift your hand now and declare, God's protection is over my life. No curse, no enemy, no envy will prevent God's promises for me. Now imagine yourself in a situation where the difficulties seem insurmountable, but God is with you, just as He was with His servants in the past. The Bible tells the story of Isaac, who in a moment of great scarcity and hardship was guided by God to stay in the land and not follow the path that seemed easier. The land was dry, without rain, without hope. But God had greater plans for him. Isaac, a man of faith and sensitive to God's voice, could have chosen to follow the common path, which was to flee to Egypt, where conditions were better. However, he obeyed the divine calling and stayed. He did what seemed impossible. He dug wells in a dry land, and even without rain, water sprang up. In the same year of great famine and crisis, Isaac harvested 100 times more than he planted. This kind of blessing attracts the envious gaze of those who do not want to see others succeed. People began to rise up against him, trying to harm him, filling up the wells he had dug. However, Isaac did not fight back. He did not lose focus. He knew that the blessing was not in the circumstances, but in God, who was with him every step of the way. He understood that true prosperity comes from obedience to God, and that his trust should not be in external conditions, but in God's faithfulness. This is exactly what happens in our own paths. Often, we see people trying to discourage us, saying that our ideas won't work or that our success is undeserved. These words can be painful, but just like Isaac, we must understand that God is with us. He will not allow anything to bring us down. If one door is blocked, He will open another, and the blessing will continue to flow. No matter how many wells the enemy fills, God's blessing will always spring up. Remember, your struggle is preparing you for your testimony of victory. Sometimes you may feel that you are alone, surrounded by negativity and envy. But in reality, the reason for so much opposition is precisely the light God has placed in your life. Just as a light shines brightly in a dark room, your presence, your strength, discomforts those who are in darkness. This is something we must understand. The light of God in us attracts both love and envy. People who are in darkness, with bitter hearts and closed minds, cannot handle the light of someone who walks with God. They are like someone who has been woken up in the middle of the night, and when the light is suddenly turned on, they can't open their eyes because of the painful brightness. They cannot handle your success, your peace, and many times they try to bring you down. However, it is precisely this light that will carry you forward. When you realize that this light is God's presence in your life, you understand that you cannot be shaken. Even if the darkness around you tries to engulf you, God's light will always prevail. The people who cannot see what God is doing in your life will rise up. They will speak ill. They will try to harm you. However, do not let yourself be shaken. God's light is your protection. It is your greatest testimony. When you remain firm, even in the face of attacks and envy, that's when victory becomes even more evident. Because, as the word says, the more the enemy tries to bring you down, the more you will rise. He cannot destroy you because you are a chosen person. You are a vessel of honor in God's hands. He will protect you from all evil. He will turn all darkness into light, and He will lead you to higher places. Your trust must remain unshakable. Now, the secret to true victory is understanding that, even in the face of opposition, the focus must always be on God and His promises. You are a chosen person. The enemy knows this, and that's why he tries to weaken your confidence and faith. But as God Himself said to Isaac, prosperity is in the hands of those who are faithful. Even when the enemy tries to fill up the wells and block your progress, the blessing does not depend on external circumstances, but on your obedience and trust in God. Don't forget this. When God says He will bless you, no one can stop it. Even if the enemy tries to use people around you to create obstacles, you will be stronger. True victory is not in what the enemy does, but in what God has already done. For you, He has already equipped you. He has already blessed you, and victory is already guaranteed. Stay firm in His promise. Isaac's experience teaches us this. Even when everything seemed to be against him, he remained faithful and kept digging wells, believing that God had something greater for him. And God made it so that, in the year of greatest crisis, he reaped 100 times more. God has a plan for you as well. It may seem like you are facing difficulties right now, but the blessing is about to manifest. What seemed lost will be restored, and what was blocked will be unblocked, because God is working in your life. Now, after reflecting on what God wants for our lives, it's time to take action. God has plans of prosperity for you, plans of victory. However, it is necessary to trust Him, remain firm, and seek His direction at every moment. In the midst of the struggle, always remember to surrender everything to God and remain in prayer. Today, pray with faith, asking for divine protection over your paths, your life, and your projects. Declare that God's blessings are over you. It doesn't matter what others say or try to do. God is in control. And as the word says, He will make you prosper, just like Isaac. I invite you to like this video, comment below what you have learned through this word, and subscribe to the Whispers Towards Heaven channel so you can continue being guided by words of faith and hope. God has something great reserved for your life, and we are here to pray and believe along with you. May God's blessing be over all your steps. Don't forget, your future is prosperous in God.